Hi, Rick. How are you?
Dan, I'm doing great. My question is, how are you doing? How are you handling that big number that's on your birth certificate these days?
I'm up there, right there with you.
Well, I'm in denial. I'm just flat out lying about my age these days, so I've not actually admitted it yet. You have any advice for me about it?
Drink?
you know that's not a problem.
Could you throw your age right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What if you were 75? Could you throw that?
Yeah, I think I could. I mean, in spring training every year, I throw a lot of batting practice with the Cubs, and just to kind of stay ready because Mark Harmon, we have the benefit baseball game down in Oklahoma City, and I don't get a whole lot of help from the guys that he grew up with. So I think one year I got the win, the hold, and the save. So yeah, I think I could do 70. I don't know about 75. That's a good question. How are you doing?
Spectacular. Everything's great.
I don't get to see you anymore. World Series occasionally, but you need to come around. We're still having a good time. Chesney was here in Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. We got Rascal Flats tonight. We're going to go looking for love tomorrow with Johnny Lee. So come see us.
How is Mark Grace doing, though, Rick? That's what I want to know.
That's one of my favorite stories, Dan. I think it's usually the first story I tell about you was, I think we were roasting him or something, or maybe he retired, and you flew in that morning and caught a red eye back out that night just to be a part of that. That's something that that's just the type of friend that you. He tried that marriage thing, Dan, and he wasn't very good at that. He is a great father, and I don't think that surprises any of us. But he's terrific at that, and that marriage thing didn't work out real well. And the story I heard, and I don't know this to be true because I don't think it's fair for me to ask, but I guess at one point he and Tanya were sitting having coffee, and Gracie walked in and he handed her like a file, and she says, "What's that?" And he says, "Well, just take a look at it." Well, he had found some photos or something. She was doing some things she shouldn't have done. And she goes, "Hold on a second." And she goes into the bedroom and comes out with a file that was like 10 times thicker than the one. And that's what they did. They just laughed about it. They said that, okay, the marriage is over. What are we going to do? We got these two boys. So I think Gracie's doing great. That assistant hitting coach kind of thing. Yeah.
But here's a guy who didn't use batting gloves. Like, Grace got to the plate. He was a no-nonsense guy. Can you teach that to these kids nowadays?
There's a couple of those that are still around, but, the thing is, to me, it's stupid because, people like Nike are going to pay you, $100,000 to wear those batting gloves. I don't care if you like them or not. There's, a lot of things you can do with that kind of money.
He's Rick Sutcliffe of the Mothership, former Cy Young winner. A couple of things here. Did you once steal home back in was that like late 80s you stole home in a game?
It would be easy for you to forget, Dan, because it happened so quick. I mean, yeah, I did. I think I'm the last pitcher to have stole home. 4 for 4 in my career. I mean, that shouldn't have come as a surprise, but
it was on this day, though, Rick, in 1988.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I know Kevin Gross was on the mound, and what happened was I think there were 2 outs or something, and Mitch Webster was at first base. I'm at third. He takes off, and Kevin Gross did that third to first move, and Mitch gets caught in a rundown, and he's going to be out. So I just take off. I mean, I'm going to be out by 50 feet, but I think it was Ricky Jordan. I knew that whoever the first baseman was, I knew he couldn't throw. I knew he was terrible. So I thought, what the heck? If not, he throws it like halfway up on the screen. I'd have been out by 40 feet, and yet I get credit. I know people look at me. Even when I played, you look at me, and you just don't think stolen base when you look at that body.
No. Did you? Were you still pitching when Jordan was playing baseball?
No, we were broadcasting there. Dave Stewart and a bunch of guys went, and worked out with him and all of that. I'm the one that I get credit for taking Garth Brooks to spring training.
But Garth got a base hit, didn't he?
He did. He got a base hit, and I think it was an RBI off of Jamie Moyer.
Oh.
And Garth knows the story. I mean, I hope he doesn't get mad at me, but, when he would play, I would talk to the opposing pitcher. And I literally, because of being on, Baseball Tonight, and I would threaten him. If you anything over 85, and I will crush you the rest of your playing career every chance I get. Anyway, I didn't have to tell Jamie that. So his hit and his RBI, those are all legit. I mean, he absolutely earned that, and as you know, was just he was just a pleasure to be around.
The White Sox have played better as of late, although losing last night. But is Chris Sale more likely or less likely now to be traded?
He's not going anywhere, Dan. I mean, that's when you look at if you were to start a franchise right now and you could have anybody you wanted, this guy would probably be in the top 10. You can't do that. You got to mend that fence. And I was talking about it, during this past week. Did a couple of the games, in that Crosstown Classic. Mm-hmm. When they were really good early in the year, I think they were 17-8 or something in April, and had like a 6-game lead in May. The reason they did it was because their pitching was so good. And with them getting, Rodon back and Shields throwing well now, they've got a chance to, with this rotation, to get back to playing the type of baseball they did earlier. So, I mean, if I'm a White Sox team right now, I turn the page on what happened there with Sale walking out, and I look to add a couple of pieces. I look to maybe add a bat in the middle of that lineup. I hope that Abreu gets back on track. He's not swinging a bat like he did the last couple of years, but you still feel like he's going to do that.
The Cubs World Series or bust?
Oh yeah. There's no question that when Theo Epstein came, when he left the Red Sox to come to the north side of Chicago, that was the only goal that he had right there. And when people look at what happened last year and how the first 3 years of his tenure they were in last place, they had Joe Madden. This is, Dan, you and I, you know it better than I do. This is what Theo did in Boston. This is what Joe Madden did in Tampa. These guys are just continuing to do what, they've already done.
If not the Cubs, then who?
I like the Texas Rangers a lot. And I'll tell you why. The one thing that John Daniels and Theo Epstein have in common is they're both tremendous draft and develop type guys. The reason that Cole Hamels went to Texas was because the Texas Rangers had what the Philadelphia Phillies wanted. The same thing is true for Chapman. Chapman could have gone anywhere, and Brian Cashman had a chance to look at every contending organization, and the players that he wanted were in the Cubs system. That's what that's what those guys have in common. And when you look at general managers right now, and the next couple of days are going to determine a lot of the teams that make the playoffs and don't. If you don't agree with me, all you got to do is look at the World Series last year. Cespedes was a big part of that. And, of course, Zobrist and Cueto were a big part for Kansas City. So what happens in the next couple of days are going to be key. And a lot of the reason why something happens is the type of, minor league system that you put together.
Did you ever go drinking with Harry Carey?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we called it. You could tell the look on a guy's face that had done it the next day because we called it the Harry Carey flu. You go out with him the night before, you're going to wake up the next day just feeling like crap. I mean, it's a lot like hanging with you, buddy.
Yep, absolutely. We had a question the other day. Would you rather have Roger Clemens' career or Mariano Rivera's career? Everything that is involved with those careers.
Without a doubt, Mariano Rivera.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I believe everything that he did. I don't believe everything that is on the back of Roger Clemens' baseball card.
But we see him and Bonds. They seem to be intertwined here of moving up the voting for the Hall of Fame. Do you think that they ever get in?
I think Barry does for sure. And Dan, I think I faced him 70 times or something, and the most at bats off of anybody that he didn't hit a home run off of. But I faced the guy that was, stealing 50 bases a year, not the guy that was hitting 50 home runs. I thought he would have. I thought he was a surefire Hall of Famer before, he started hitting 50, 60, and 70 home runs. I thought he was that guy. Just my personal opinion, I didn't feel like Roger was until Roger got up there to Toronto.
Yeah, my problem is this, though, Rick. Are you a Hall of Famer if at any point in your career you use performance-enhancing drugs?
I say no, Dan. And I'll tell you why. I question myself a lot. I knew back when I tore my hamstring in '85, I knew there were some things I could do. And the only thing that kept me from doing it was the fact that the doctors told me it was illegal by law. And they didn't know enough about it. Looking back on it, as you know, 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. And the first question that my surgeon asked me was, have you ever taken steroids? And I went, no. I said, well, good. And I said, well, why? Well, because, it could have accelerated the growth of the cancer that was in me. So as I look back on that, I'm thrilled that I didn't. But I also, in a lot of ways, think that I might have cheated the Cubs organization by not doing it. A lot of people were. A lot of people knew. And now as we look back on it, we know the advantages that came from it. USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Agency, when they spoke to all of us at ESPN, they talked about your muscle growth, your recovery time, and then they talked about your vision. They said, well, how can that help a hitter? Well, with most people, your vision when you're on a lot of that stuff, they were saying, your vision's doubled. So everything that you need to be a better hitter.
Wait, doubled in a good way?
Doubled in a good way. Yeah.
If I gave you a mulligan back in 1985, would you take steroids?
Well, not knowing that I was going to come down with cancer,
Let's say you didn't. Let's say you weren't going to be diagnosed, but now you could have a do-over.
You know what? No, Dan, I wouldn't, and I'll tell you why. Because my daughter years ago, as I said this at a banquet at the Cubs convention, my daughter said, "The one thing I know, Dad, you sleep good at night, don't you?" And I do. There was nothing there. The guy I think of, Dan, is a good buddy of ours, is Wally Joiner.
Yeah.
Wally Joiner was an all-star. I think it was in 1986, his rookie year. He was voted in.
Wally World.
Wally World, yeah. He never got to go back again. And a lot of it had to do with, the names McGuire and Palmeiro and, guys like that were going in front of him. As we look back on it now, they were doing some things that Wally didn't do. Hey, did you ever see the game show that, what was it called? It's Family Feud. Did you ever see the game show that Wally and I were on with that?
No.
You didn't?
I'll
look. Gotta see it.
I'll take a gander at it.
It's on the Game Show channel. It's run every now and then. Here's Wally World. He's with the Angels. We're in L.A. We're filming this. He's the most popular guy, in the city. Well, anyway, Ozzie Smith and Joe Carter, we all do it. So, anyway, Joe Carter goes, we win the first round against the umpires. It wasn't real hard, obviously, doing that. But Wally goes into the soundproof booth. And Joe Carter does really well. We get a lot of points. And the first question when Wally comes out, crowd going crazy. His wife Leslie and their 4 daughters right in the front row. And the first question asked to Wally was, out of 100 men surveyed, and who knows who these 100 men are, what is the most desirable age for a woman? And Wally goes, 21. Well, this obnoxious horn goes off. And it just, everybody just kind of scared. Well, Joe Carter had used that number. It had already been used. Wally, try again. Well, Wally, in a total panic, goes 16.
Oh, no. I'm going to look at it.
The guy could not even ask another question. He takes the knee. Leslie grabs the 4 girls. They walk out.
Oh, boy. I'm going to have Paulie bring it up during the commercial break. I got to run here, Rick. We'll be watching on Sunday night. Always great to catch up with you, bud.
Dan, it's so good, buddy. You're the best.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.